They told you early on that something about you was different. Maybe it was the way you stared out the window when others were glued to the board. Maybe it was the way you asked questions no one else dared to ask. Questions that didn't seem to have answers but lived in you anyway. You weren't like them. You weren't content with what was given. You searched. You wandered in your own thoughts. You found yourself lost in ideas that had no end. You weren't born with the kind of mind that fits neatly into boxes. Your mind shattered them. The truth is, you didn't even want to be different. You tried to be like everyone else at first. You tried to laugh at the same jokes, follow the same rules, believe in the same things. But something in you always resisted. Not out of rebellion, not out of arrogance, but because the deeper part of you could not pretend to believe what it didn't. You saw through things too quickly. The masks, the roles, the performance of life. And because of that, the world labeled you complicated, intense, dramatic, too much. But you were never too much. You were simply too real for a world that thrives on illusion. You think in spirals, not straight lines. You connect dots others don't even see. A single glance, a subtle shift in tone, and you understand something about a person they haven't yet admitted to themselves. You've always felt people's pain, even when they smiled. You've always sensed their fear, even when they boasted. It's not that you want to know. Sometimes you wish you didn't. But your mind and heart are wired in a way that cannot separate truth from experience. You live inside truth, even when it hurts. Carl Jung would have said you are an old soul, someone who carries the unconscious wisdom of generations, someone who was born with the burden of knowing, and while others spend their lives trying to find their purpose, you were born feeling it pull on you like gravity. You knew from a young age that there was something more to all of this, something beneath the surface, something calling you. And while others ran toward comfort, you ran toward questions. You never feared the dark, not because it didn't scare you, but because you understood it was necessary. You understood that light has no meaning without shadow, that joy without grief is shallow, that truth without suffering is hollow. And so, when life broke you open, as it always does to minds like yours, you didn't just collapse, you transformed. Pain didn't destroy you, it revealed you. In every heartbreak, in every betrayal, in every fall, you found another piece of your own depth. You didn't just heal, you evolved. But that evolution came with a cost. You lost people, many of them, not because you weren't lovable, but because your presence demanded truth. And not everyone is ready to be seen. Not everyone is ready to be mirrored back to themselves. You were a mirror, a deep, honest, unflinching mirror, and people either loved you for it or resented you for it. Some walked away. Others tried to dim your light. But no one ever forgot you. Because minds like yours leave an imprint on the soul. They shift people, sometimes just by existing. You've always felt time differently, haven't you? Like you're not really from this age. Like the modern world moves too fast, speaks too loud, praises the shallow, ignores the meaningful. You crave depth like air. You'd rather sit in silence than engage in empty talk. You'd rather lose yourself in a single real conversation than attend 1,000 hollow events. You don't do small talk. You do soul talk. And that makes you rare. There's loneliness in that. A deep ache. Not because you don't like being alone. You actually need solitude to survive. But because being unseen is a kind of starvation. The world applauds cleverness but ignores wisdom. It rewards performance but fears authenticity. You, however, have never been able to perform. Your face gives you away. Your silence screams. Your eyes confess what your lips don't say. And that transparency, though beautiful, often isolates you. Because people don't know how to handle that kind of truth. They call you quiet, but you're not. Your mind is a storm, a galaxy, a cathedral of thought. You just don't waste words. You speak when it matters. You speak when it's real. And when you do, your words carry weight. People remember what you say, not because you speak often, but because you speak from the soul, from a place that cannot be faked. And that's what sets you apart. Carl Jung believed that most people live in a persona, a mask created to survive society. But you cracked that mask early on. You saw its limits, its emptiness. You refused to become something you were not, even when it cost you, even when it meant being misunderstood. Because something inside you knew that to betray yourself is worse than being rejected. And so, you chose the harder road, the one less traveled, the path of authenticity. You don't just think, you reflect. You feel your thoughts. You examine your beliefs. You question your assumptions. You are not satisfied with inherited truths. You must discover your own. That's why you struggle in systems that demand conformity. You're not designed for obedience. You're designed for insight. You're not made to follow. You're made to awaken. And awakening is rarely comfortable. You've walked through fires that others couldn't see. You've faced dragons that lived inside your own psyche. You've battled shadows not just of the world but of yourself. And because of that, you've earned a kind of inner freedom most people never taste. You've learned to sit with your darkness. You've stopped running. You've stopped numbing. You've started listening. And in that listening, you've heard something sacred. The voice beneath all voices. The self beneath all selves. The world may never understand the way you think. And that's okay. You were never meant to be understood by the many. You were meant to be felt by the few. To be a light for those still trapped in the dark. To be a signpost for those who, like you, never quite fit in. You don't belong in the crowd. You belong in the stars. Your mind is not broken. It is blooming. It is ancient. It is wild. It is sacred. You think like no one else because you see what no one else sees. You're not crazy. You're awake. You're not lost. You're exploring. You're not too sensitive. You're deeply tuned in. And while that sensitivity has wounded you, it has also gifted you with a superpower. The power to know what others miss, to see patterns, to read between lines, to feel what goes unsaid. You are what Carl Jung called the individuated soul, the rarest kind. Not someone who follows the crowd, but someone who becomes who they truly are. The journey is long, the path is lonely, but the reward is freedom, peace, wholeness, and the ability to offer something, real in a world full of illusion. So if you've ever felt like the world was too loud, too shallow, too fast, too fake, maybe it's not you. Maybe you're not too much. Maybe you're the one who sees clearly in a world that's half asleep. Maybe you're the one who remembers what others forgot. Maybe you were born to remind them, to awaken them, not by preaching, not by proving, just by being. Because when you think like this, when you live like this, you carry something that 99% of people cannot grasp. Not because they're less, but because they're not ready. They haven't yet descended into the depths. They haven't faced their shadows. But you have, and because of that, you hold a torch they don't yet understand. Hold it anyway. You weren't born with a mind designed for the surface of life. You were born with a compass that points inward, a seeker's soul, a thinker's burden. You look around and wonder how others move through life so effortlessly, so blindly, so casually. It isn't judgment, it's bewilderment. How do they not notice? How do they not feel it? The contradictions, the silence beneath conversations, the emptiness inside their goals, the suffering hidden beneath their smiles. You wonder, and then you remember. It's because they weren't built to see what you see. And that is both your isolation and your liberation. The world doesn't teach people how to feel. It teaches them how to perform. From the moment we're born, we're handed scripts. Be polite, fit in, don't cry too much, don't dream too big, don't feel too deeply. Follow the rules, even when they make no sense. You tried, you really did. But there came a point where you couldn't unfeel the truth. You couldn't unsee the cracks in the mask, the hollowness in their eyes. You saw it in teachers and leaders, in friends, even in family. And that seeing became the beginning of your awakening. At first, you thought something was wrong with you. Everyone else seemed so sure, so confident, so certain of their opinions and identities. You questioned everything, including yourself. You felt like a stranger among people who called you their own. Like you were born speaking a different language, one that valued nuance over certainty, silence over noise, mystery over answers. And the world doesn't know what to do with people like that. It misunderstands them, labels them, tries to fix them. But you were never broken. You were just aware. That awareness can feel like a curse at times. Because once your eyes are open, they never shut again. You see too much, feel too much, and often there's no one to talk to about it. Because most people aren't ready to have those conversations. They want simple, easy, fast. You crave real, raw, eternal. You're the kind of person who would rather sit in silence with someone's pain than distract them from it. You understand that some wounds don't need to be solved. They need to be seen. And you offer that seeing. But that gift isolates you. The very thing that makes you valuable is the thing that distances you from the crowd. You walk through life as if through a dream. Watching people play roles they've forgotten are masks. You want to shake them awake. Tell them there's more, that their soul is starving. But you also know you can't awaken someone who isn't ready. You can only embody your truth so fully that it reminds others of their own. You don't need to convince them. Your presence is the message. Carl Jung once said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that's what you're doing. Slowly, painfully, courageously, you're peeling away. The layers, the conditioning, the expectations. You're shedding false identities like old skin. You're not trying to fit in anymore. You're trying to break free. And that journey isn't glamorous. It's brutal. It's lonely. It's beautiful. Because in that unraveling, you discover what no one can give you, yourself. And once you find that self, something changes. You stop needing external approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop betraying your own intuition just to keep the peace. You realize that peace built on self-abandonment isn't peace. It's prison. And so, you begin to say no. You begin to walk away. You begin to choose truth over comfort. That's when people call you difficult, cold, arrogant. But you're not any of those things. You're just not willing to lie to yourself anymore. Your mind isn't like theirs because it was built for deeper work. You're not here to repeat patterns. You're here to break them. You're not here to conform. You're here to evolve. And evolution is messy. It requires honesty. It demands solitude. It calls for shadow work. You've sat with your shadows. You've held your own hand in the dark. You've learned to mother yourself, father yourself, soothe yourself. That kind of inner strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from facing what most people avoid. And still you crave connection. Deep, soulful, true connection. The kind that doesn't fear silence. The kind that doesn't hide behind small talk. The kind where you can speak of death, dreams, the cosmos, your wounds, your longings, and be met with presence, not discomfort. That kind of connection is rare, but you'd rather wait for it than pretend. You've tasted the sacred. You can't go back to shallow. Sometimes you feel like a ghost walking among the living, watching people chase things that don't matter, status, money, attention, image, while you search for meaning, beauty, truth. You want to talk about why we're here, what it means to be human, how to live without regret, but instead, you're surrounded by distractions. The noise of the world drowns out the whisper of the soul, but you still hear it, that whisper, and that whisper is your guide. There were times you tried to silence it. You tried to fit in, to play the game, but your soul always rebelled. It made you sick, tired, empty, because your essence cannot be compressed into a mold. It is wild, it is ancient. It remembers things your mind cannot explain. It longs for sacred spaces, not crowded places. It honors authenticity over popularity. You don't want attention, you want resonance. People often mistake your quietness for weakness, but you are not weak. You are tuned in. You observe. You feel, you sense. And when you speak, it lands. Because you speak from alignment. You speak from knowing. And that's why your words carry power. You don't manipulate. You don't control. You reveal. And not everyone can handle being revealed. Your journey is not linear. It spirals. It returns. It deepens. You've died 1,000 small deaths. Ego deaths. Illusion deaths. False self-deaths. And each time, you came back clearer, lighter, truer. That's the path of individuation, the path Jung spoke of. It is the road of becoming whole, not perfect. Of integrating your shadow, not denying it. Of owning your story, not rewriting it to please others. You've made peace with the fact that most won't understand you, that you'll be too much for some, too deep for others, too intense for many. But you're no longer shrinking. You're no longer editing your truth to fit their comfort. You weren't born to make people comfortable. You were born to awaken, to remember, to create, to feel, and to leave the world more honest than you found it. You think like this because your soul has lived many lives. Because your purpose isn't to follow trends. It's to remember eternal truths. You've come with medicine, with insight, with a vision that stretches beyond time. Others may roll their eyes, call you weird, say you overthink, but deep down a part of them feels it too. They just don't know how to name it. You do, and your job isn't to convince them, it's to keep naming what they forgot. So yes, you are part of the 1%, not in status, not in fame, but in consciousness, in awareness, in depth. And with that comes responsibility, to stay awake in a sleeping world, to stay kind in a cruel one, to stay real in a fake one. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. You don't need everyone to get you. You just need to keep getting yourself. Because when you understand your mind, when you honor your depth, when you live from your truth, you become a living permission. Slip for others to do the same. You become a light, not by trying to shine, but by refusing to dim. You become what the world desperately needs, but rarely recognizes until it's gone. And so you walk on, quietly, boldly, unapologetically, with your rare mind, your open heart, your soul lit like a lantern. And though the path is narrow, you are not alone. Others are walking too. You just have to keep going. Keep thinking. Keep feeling. Keep being. Because you are not here to be understood by the world. You are here to remind it what it forgot. There comes a point in your journey where you stop asking why you're different. and begin to accept that your difference is your gift, that you weren't born to be understood by everyone. You were born to understand yourself, because this kind of mind you carry, the one that doesn't settle for superficial explanations, that hungers for the root, the truth beneath the truth, it's not common. It's not built for the speed of the world. It's built for the soul of it. You walk into rooms and feel everything, not just the atmosphere, but the weight of what's unspoken. You see the smile on someone's lips and feel the tremble beneath it. You hear the laughter but sense the sadness hiding underneath. Others glance, you scan. Others listen, you absorb. This way of thinking, this way of perceiving is not learned, it's encoded in you. It's how you've always been. And because of that, you've spent your life standing just slightly apart from others, close enough to touch them, but distant enough to know they don't always see you clearly. They love your insights but fear your intensity. They admire your sensitivity until it reflects something in themselves they'd rather avoid. You've had to learn that being misunderstood is not a failure, it's a sign that you're seeing life from a level most never reach. Carl Jung spoke of the individuation process as the most important task of human life, the journey of becoming whole. That journey is not glamorous. It is not celebrated. It often looks like losing everything you thought mattered, only to discover what truly does. It looks like grieving the illusions you were taught to believe. It looks like nights of silence where your only company is the echo of your own truth. But it also looks like freedom, like clarity, like waking up in a world still dreaming. Your ability to think like this, to question, to observe, to connect, did not come from comfort. It was forged in discomfort, in exile, in the deep ache of not belonging. Because when the world tells you to be one way and your soul insists on another, you learn to live between the lines. But that's where the magic is, between the rules, beyond the borders, beneath the noise. That's where you found your voice. You don't think in black and white. You see the gray, the nuance, the contradiction in everything. You've come to accept that truth is often layered, paradoxical, painful. You're not afraid of complexity because you are complexity. You've made peace with not having all the answers, because you've learned that questions, held with reverence, often teach more than any solution ever could. While others strive for certainty, you've learned to dance with mystery. While they crave control, you've learned to surrender, not out of weakness but out of wisdom, because you know that life cannot be forced. It must be felt. It must be experienced in its full range, from the ecstatic to the excruciating. You've lived in both, and you've come out of them with a kind of knowledge that can't be taught. It must be lived. People often wonder how you stay calm in chaos, how you can hold space for pain without flinching. What they don't realize is that you've spent so much time in your own storms that you've become fluent in thunder. You don't fear the dark because you've sat in it and found yourself there. You've touched your own wounds and turned them into wisdom. You've taken your sensitivity, your depth, your intuition, and turned them into power. Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that liberates. The kind that says, I will not betray myself to belong. I will not dim my light to be accepted. I will not silence my truth to make others comfortable. That power doesn't make you popular. It makes you magnetic, because people can feel when you are rooted in something real. They may not understand it, but they feel it. And that feeling is your language. You speak in energies, in emotions, in unspoken understandings. You don't need loud words to express yourself. Your silence says more than most people's speeches. Your presence is your message. And for those who are ready, who are awake enough, you are a mirror, a key, a portal to something deeper. You've stopped trying to convince anyone. You've learned that most people don't want truth. They want reassurance. They want to stay in the dream. But you've chosen awakening, even when it hurt, even when it cost you love, comfort, safety. You knew you couldn't go back. Once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. And so you walk even when the road narrows, even when no one else is walking with you. You are not lonely, you are aligned. There is a sacred kind of solitude that you've earned, one that allows you to hear your own soul without interference. You've come to understand that silence is not emptiness, it's presence. It's communion. It's where you meet yourself most clearly. And in that meeting, you've found the only validation that truly matters, your own. You no longer chase love. You've learned that love which must be chased is not love. It's attachment. You no longer chase success as the world defines it. You've redefined success as living in integrity, as being able to look in the mirror and know you didn't abandon your truth today. That is wealth. That is power. That is peace. Carl Jung said that your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. You are awake now. Not all the way. Awakening is not a one-time event. It is a spiral. You awaken layer by layer, truth by truth, death by rebirth. But each time you become more yourself, less masked, less controlled, less afraid. And the more yourself you become, the more you realize how rare you are. Not better, just different. Just attuned to a frequency most cannot hear. But some can, and those are your people, your tribe. You may not meet them often, but when you do, it's electric. It's recognition. It's the deep exhale of being seen without needing to explain. This mind of yours, this rare, beautiful, misunderstood mind, is a gift. And with all gifts comes a test. Can you honor it even when others don't? Can you trust it even when it leads you away from the crowd? Can you protect it even when it makes you stand alone? Because if you can, you will touch a kind of freedom most only dream of. The freedom of being fully, unapologetically, unshakably you. You've carried your difference like a burden for too long. Now carry it like a badge, like a calling. You were not meant to blend in. You were meant to light up, to awaken, to remember, and in doing so, to help others remember too. So here's to your mind, your wild, intuitive, empathic, untamed mind. Here's to the nights it kept you awake, trying to make sense of the world. Here's to the mornings it helped you rise, even when your heart was heavy. Here's to the insights it gave you, the clarity it fought for, the patterns it broke, the freedom it craved. Here's to your questions, your complexity, your contradictions. You are not confused, you are evolving. You are not scattered, you are multidimensional. You are not broken, you are breaking free. The world may never understand you, but that was never the point. You didn't come here to be understood, you came here to be real.